Okay, welcome to video 4, talking about random numbers. Random numbers are basically what we call pseudo-random. They're not really random. Okay, so we can generate pseudo-random numbers from 0 to 32,767 using what we call the rand function. The rand function comes from the library, C standard library, CSTDLIB library, and you need to include that to use the rand function. Rand max is a variable that represents 32,767. So by using all caps, that is a variable that will always be 32,767. Okay, so take a look at a program. To generate a whole number within a range of 1 to 100, let's start by using rand. And we have a little program here, and if you run it, you get 42, 68, 35, 170, 25, and so forth. Okay, and we have the rand function. We mod it by 100, we add 1 to it, and it outputs the result. However, the numbers generated by the rand are not random, because if I would run this again, I will get this same sequence of numbers. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this, and let's go to code blocks. And up here is the exact same program, and you'll watch as I run this. I have to move the screen here, it's in my way. Notice I get 42, 68, 35, 170, and I always will get that if I keep running this. Okay, if I run it again, 42, 68, 35, 170. Okay, that's using the rand function. We can use the srand if we want to get random numbers or different sequence of numbers each time we run, and we use what we call the time function, which is in the library called ctime. So we need to include ctime to use the time function. And it looks something like this. We use the function srand. We use the int typecast, and we typecast the function time 0. It will return a number, okay, of seconds since 0 hours, January 1st, 1970. Okay, and then you basically use the clock, the computer clock, to generate numbers. So take a look at this, and again, notice we included ctime, and we go ahead and go srandom or srand function int typecast time 0, and if we run it, notice the first run down here is 85135. If we run it again, in this case it's 3698 2974. Okay, and we use what we call the srand function. So let's take a look at that and see how that works in code blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this out. And go ahead and comment this. So I'm just only running 1. So here's that srand. And let's go ahead and run this. And if you notice, let me move my screen so you can see it. It's 25, 52, 40, 81, 40. Okay, so it's 25, 52, the very first numbers. And if I would run this again, notice this time it's 74, 38. So notice the numbers did change. So this is a lot better than just using the rand function. We use what we call the srand. Okay, I want to talk about recursion. Recursion is just a method calling itself over and over again. If you notice here, we have a function called countdown. and we're passing a value int in, and if int equals 0, we say blast off. Else, we see out the number n, whatever was passed in, and we subtract 1 from it here, and we call count again. Notice this is a call to count inside of count. Okay, countdown. So countdown is calling itself countdown, and it's going to keep calling itself until we get down to 0. Okay, this is what we call the base case. Somewhere it has to stop calling itself, and this is where once n is 0, this stops the call. This is the base case. This stops calling itself. Okay. So let's enter 5. Is 5 equal to 0? No, it's not. So it's going to go 5. Next time we come in, we're calling countdown 4. Does 4 equal 0? No. We output 4. So now we have 5, 4. We do 3. So now we're going to have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when this hits 0, n equals 0, it's going to say blast off. Okay. So notice this keeps calling itself, and it keeps running within itself. It's almost like a loop, but it's actually not a loop. Okay, it's just a function call, keeps calling itself, and until it can't call itself anymore. So take a look here. This is what the program looks like. Here we have countdown right here, void countdown. Notice it calls itself inside of this loop. Okay. Or I'm sorry, inside of this else statement, and again, it would, if I put 3 in, it's gonna go ahead and say 3, 2, 1, blast off. Okay, and then that stops the call. And this is just a little outline of how that works. Notice it'll be 3, 2, 1, blast off. Here's an example. Here we have n lines. And it has an if statement, and inside, if you notice, we call itself, and let's say I pass in 5, this will call itself with 4, then it'll call itself with 3, 2, and 1, okay? And notice it just keeps calling itself over and over and over again. And all it does, while n is greater than 0, it's going to keep outputting a new line. So it's just almost like the one we did earlier where we had a method which called new line 3 times. This does the exact same thing if we pass in 3. Okay. You can have a infinite recursion where the method keeps calling itself over and over and over again, and that means it did not hit the base case. Okay, somewhere along the line it has to hit the base case that stops the call. Okay, and once it hits the base case, the function stops. So it's what we call an infinite recursion when you do not hit the base case. Okay, so you must be aware of that. Okay, that wraps up this chapter or this unit. Hopefully you have got something out of it. You've been practicing with the example problems. And if you have any questions, email me and or talk to me in classroom about the questions you might have. Okay, have a nice day and enjoy.